The rumors started before the truth ever had
Well,
a
this is a
chance to
pleasant
breathe.
surprise. I didn't expect to
In a
see you
small,
here.
sun-washed town where everyone knew everyone else and nothing stayed secret for more than an hour, people whispered that the single dad was being set up on a blind date meant to embarrass him. They said the girl was too big, too shy, too invisible, the kind of woman the world looked at once and quickly looked away from. But the man at the center of it, Arlo Vance, a 37-year-old mechanic whose quiet resilience carried more weight than his words, had no idea there was a cruel joke brewing in the background. All he knew was that life had been merciless lately, and maybe, just maybe, a blind date would distract him from the heaviness pressing on his chest since his wife passed 3 years ago. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what humanity should look like, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles right now. Your support helps more people see stories that truly matter. Arlo's days started before dawn, as pale daylight crept across the rooftops and slid through the windows of his small rental home. He would wake to the gentle breathing of his 8-year-old son, River, still curled on the tiny mattress they had bought secondhand. His mornings were filled with worn boots, cold floors, and a quiet determination that felt stitched into his bones. By daylight he fixed worn-out engines at a workshop that barely stayed open. By afternoon he tried to make River's life normal: homework at the park, sandwiches under the shade of quiet trees, laughter echoing through an empty playground. Grief had changed them both, softening them in some places and hardening them in others. So when Arlo's co-workers cornered him one day during lunch break, telling him there was someone perfect for him, someone sweet and gentle, he didn't think much of it. Maybe life was finally letting a little sunlight slip into the cracks. Maybe this was how things started to get better, but the truth behind their efforts was far from kind. They didn't choose the girl because they believed she was perfect for him. They chose her because they thought it would be funny. Because they wanted to prove that Arlo, the quiet, serious widower, would finally be pushed into a situation too awkward to remain composed. Because the girl they picked was Maya Bloom, a 28-year-old baker whose weight had made her the quiet punchline of many conversations she never heard. They thought Arlo would reject her publicly. They thought it would be entertaining. What they didn't know was that Maya carried her own invisible world of bruises. Since childhood, people had reminded her that she took up too much space, even though her heart was the gentlest thing anyone had ever held. She spent her mornings baking in a small shop filled with warmth and vanilla-scented air, and her afternoons helping her elderly mother. She lived a daytime life that looked peaceful on the outside but inside held the ache of being seen only for one thing: her size. She agreed to the blind date not because she expected romance, but because she hoped, just once, to be treated like someone worth meeting. The day of the date was bright and clear, blue sky shimmered over busy sidewalks and the gentle hum of daily life filled the town. Arlo arrived early at the cafe, wearing his faded blue shirt and combed back hair, hoping to not seem nervous. River had hugged him that morning and said, "I hope she makes you smile again," and that simple sentence stayed with him like an echo of sunlight. Across town, Maya stood in front of her mirror, smoothing her sea-green dress, adjusting her curls, fighting the trembling in her hands. She had debated backing out a dozen times, but something small and brave inside her whispered, "Try. Just try." She stepped into the daylight with shaky breath, hoping the world would be gentle this time. Arlo saw her approach the cafe before she noticed him. The first thing he saw wasn't her size. It was the cautious hope in her eyes. The way sunlight touched her hair. The timid way she held her purse strap as if preparing herself for rejection before it even happened. Something inside him tightened a recognition, maybe, of a person who knew what it felt like to be wounded quietly. When Maya reached him, she apologized softly for being a few minutes late. Arlo simply smiled, a small, warm smile almost no one received from him anymore, and motioned toward the table he had chosen near a bright window. Sunlight streamed across the wooden surface, catching the dust particles like tiny dancing lights. From a nearby corner of the cafe, Arlo's co-workers sat pretending to sip their drinks while waiting for the spectacle. They had set everything up. They expected discomfort, embarrassment, maybe even cruelty. Instead, something entirely different began to unfold. As they sat down, Maya looked nervous, adjusting her dress, almost shrinking into herself. But Arlo leaned forward with gentle sincerity, asking about her day, her work, the bakery she loved. Slowly, Maya's shoulders loosened. She talked about her mother, about baking with her grandmother as a child, about the joy she found in simple things: morning sunshine on the shop window, the way cinnamon smelled when it warmed, the customers who thanked her with genuine smiles. Her words were soft but carried warmth that made Arlo feel something shift inside him. But he told her about River, about the workshop, about losing his wife and trying to rebuild life from pieces that didn't always fit. Maya listened with full presence, her eyes holding a tenderness that made him feel seen for the first time in years, and as their conversation deepened, laughter drifted from the table, gentle, real, unforced. It wasn't a date crafted by destiny or dramatic confessions. It was simply two people talking under the soft daylight of a cafe, feeling something unfamiliar but comforting take shape between them, but the men watching from the corner didn't like what they saw. They wanted a scene. They wanted something to laugh about later. So one of them approached the table, loudly pretending to check in. His voice carried far too well as he made a pointed remark about how brave Arlo was for showing up. A couple nearby glanced over. Maya froze. Arlo's jaw clenched. The man laughed and added something even more cutting, words aimed at Maya, disguised as a joke but dripping with cruelty. Maya's face dropped, her breath caught, and every insecurity she fought so hard to silence screamed back to life inside her. What happened next silenced the entire cafe. Arlo stood slowly, his chair scraping the floor with a sound that cut through the air. Everyone expected anger, shouting, or maybe a quiet walkout, but instead, Arlo looked at Maya first, really looked, and his eyes softened with something fierce and protective. Then he turned toward the man and spoke with quiet strength, his voice steady enough to make the room still. He said he wasn't brave for showing up. He said bravery wasn't about agreeing to a blind date. Bravery was waking up every morning despite grief. Bravery was raising a child alone. And above all, bravery was facing a world that judged you before knowing your name. Bravery was showing up even when you knew people might be cruel. He said Maya was one of the bravest people he had ever met. The room fell into a stunned silence as his words traveled through the daylight-filled space like a warm wave, disarming the ugliness that had seeped into it moments earlier. Maya's eyes shimmered with tears. She tried to blink away. She wasn't used to being defended. She wasn't used to someone choosing to stand with her instead of snickering behind her back. Arlo's final words were the ones that left everyone in tears. He said that anyone could see a body, but only someone with a heart worth keeping could see a person. And anyone who couldn't see Maya for who she was had no right to speak about her at all. The cafe manager eventually stepped in, asking the rude coworker to leave. Arlo sat back down, his eyes carefully searching Maya's face. She wiped her cheeks with trembling fingers, embarrassed but also overwhelmingly moved. In the remaining sunlight of that afternoon, something fragile yet powerful formed between them. Trust. Recognition. Two people who had been broken in different ways finding a place where the cracks didn't matter. When the date ended, Arlo walked Maya to her car. She hesitated before unlocking the door, murmuring that she didn't want him to feel obligated to speak to her again after everything that happened. Arlo felt something ache at the idea, and he gently assured her that nothing about his intention was forced. He wanted to see her again, not out of pity, not out of courtesy, but because he genuinely felt something with her he hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, Maya and River became unexpected friends, sharing afternoon pastries, stories, and small adventures under daytime skies that seemed brighter than they had in a long time. Arlo found himself laughing again, lighter, more alive. Maya found herself standing taller, more confident, discovering that she wasn't hard to love. She had simply never met someone who looked at her with kindness first. Their bond grew in small, meaningful ways: slow afternoons at the park, shared meals, gentle smiles that said more than words ever could. And when Arlo eventually reached for her hand one quiet day, Maya didn't pull back. She let herself believe she was worthy of being cherished. If this story touched your heart today, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps Kindness Chronicles reach more people who need stories like this.